welcome to Middle Age Geeks, the podcast where your hosts, Daz and Phil, take the time to review movies, video games, TV shows, comic books, and anything else that takes our fancy. As I said, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Phil, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Daz. Daz, how are you?
I am brilliant, man. I'm very good. Looking forward to this episode. And also, we're recording on Oscars weekend, so looking forward to watching them and maybe next week having a chat about hopefully some madness that happens. Somebody gets slapped or something.
Oh, God, yeah. A bit of drama would be great, wouldn't it? Yeah.
The numbers will be fucking sky high for viewing it. Yeah. Bring it on.
So what we're doing for this episode, I know we told you all last week that we would do Dune, but it's too big. First of all, it's too big to do. You know, maybe we could do at some stage, we could do like a Dune special, you know, in a couple of months' time and kind of combine both of them or do something like that. But it's too much to do. And also, it's one we really, really don't want to spoil anybody, you know, because I know some people will listen to an episode, whether they've seen the movie or not, you know, but we didn't want to spoil anything. So we thought maybe as part of the intro, me and Daz will kind of give our thoughts on it. But very, very, very spoiler free, just overall thoughts on it. And before we get into our actual movie review, which will be Spaceman. I think it's 2024, isn't it? It's only just out, right?
Just came out last week or two.
This one's on Netflix with Adam Sandler. And then for the retro corner, we're going to go all the way back to 96 for the original Tomb Raider. So that'll be a bit of a blast from the past to go back and have a chat about that. But before we do all that, Daz, why don't you let us know what you've been playing and watching and stuff for the last week?
So last week I'm still absolutely engrossed in this Pacific Drive thing. I've gotten so much more into it, like so much more deeper into the game. And my bond with my trusty old 80s station wagon vehicle has reached telepathic heights. It's fantastic. I've upgraded to card steel doors and loads of gizmos in it to kind of detect anomalies in some of the worlds and stuff. It's fantastic. Like, it really is. It just gets deeper and deeper. For anyone who doesn't know, it's like, just we were talking about it last week. It's kind of a survival game where you are kind of paired with a remnant, which is like a vehicle, which it's like set in a post-apocalyptic world that has been ravaged, essentially. It's the Pacific Midwest, I believe. And yeah, it's kind of a lot of scavenge missions and stuff like that. But one of the coolest parts of the game for me is like that risk and reward. Like, you stay around in some of these worlds a little longer to kind of scrap for upgrades and get key elements for your missions, and you need to get specific power sources to get out of these areas to open gateways. So the longer you stay, the more unstable it becomes in terms of there's anomalies and crazy electrical storms and kind of ghostly storms, I guess, or ghostly presence that wreak havoc with your car and start turning off headlights, and the controls go all bonkers. And I got caught in one electrical storm yesterday, and I didn't bring you prepare for your mission by bringing a load of gear in the back of the car, and I forgot to bring like an electrician's kit, which you need to fix any wiring that goes fucking crazy in your car. Okay. So I got caught in this crazy storm that blew out my headlights and blew the wiring, so I was just essentially in the dark, and went and got the power up needed to open the gateway. But when you open these gateways, I don't know if I was telling you last week, it's fucking incredible that you get enough power to open the gateway via a drive in your car, like a reactor. And then it comes up on the screen in the car, it just goes, drive. And then you're like, what the fuck? And then you look at the map, and it's just this big glowing tower of light comes down, and that's where you got to go. Right, yeah. But like kind of Fortnite or these games where the map starts to then sink or kind of shrink, and you can see there's all these red fucking crazy particles and stuff just shrinking, and the world is becoming unstable and rupturing. So it's you balls to the wall drive to get to this fucking beacon of light, but sure, my fucking headlights were gone. So I'm just looking at the big light in the distance and using kind of that light where I could see shadows of trees coming at me and trying to fucking balls to the wall, and got there in the end. And it's just that straight away after that, you know, you have a minute and you try and think, fuck yeah, I think might put down the controller for a second, put it down, and then just pick it up 2 minutes later, just let's go again, just to do another one. It's fantastic. It's very kind of mellow at times and then absolutely panic inducing at other times. So that's essentially what I've been playing And just can't get enough to it. Or I can't get enough about it. Like we were saying, that and Helldivers came out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, anyway, Helldivers. Remember, you mentioned to me that it was just like, oh, that game's look good or looks great. 2 weeks before it came out. Same with this. I didn't know anything about it. Maybe a week or two before it came out, and both of them are Game of the Year contenders for me already. They're just. I love that when you're surprised by a game that you're just like, oh, I might pick up and play, and then 20, 30 hours later, you're just like, I can't get enough of this fucking thing. How about yourself?
Yeah.
What have you been playing?
Yeah, like I suppose. Yeah, I mean, those two games. I think I only would have seen them in state of play things that had been released early, but I didn't know. Like I don't know anything about Helldivers 1.
No, never even heard of it before. Yeah.
No, either have I. But no, I haven't. The only thing I played, I was continuing to play Control this time. I played through everything. Played through the DLC, everything. I just adore that game. Absolutely adore it. I love the characters. I love all like some of the NPCs, like Emily Pope and stuff. And I think she's brilliant. I just love the weirdness of it. So it's fun to play through that again. What else? What have I watched? Actually, there's one thing you and I are going to differ on. That I watched. I finished watching True Detective. I watched the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it.
Didn't like it at all.
No, I really didn't like the ending. But I love it. I love stuff set in the Arctic and Antarctica, that kind of stuff. I love all that real whiteout, always dark, like 30 Days of Night, that kind of stuff. I love that vibe. So I enjoyed the aesthetic of it. Love Jodie Foster. I think you're one Callie Reyes. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce her. I think I've never seen her in anything before. Yeah. I think she's
brilliant.
I think she's actually a boxer, like a championship boxer or something.
Turned her hand to acting.
Yeah, I thought she was so compelling. I really, really liked that character. I really liked her. I'd be interested to see her in something else next. She'll probably turn up in fucking Fast and the Furious or something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I just wasn't a fan. I didn't like the way any of the stories wrapped up, or anything like that. It just wasn't for me. What else did I watch? I watched a Netflix documentary, The Program, which I thought isn't geeky at all, but it was quite interesting. It was just all about these programs that are ran kind of around the world by the same kind of company. People send their delinquent children off to these places, to kind of set them straight. But they have no idea what's actually happening. Like they think they're going to these kind of almost boarding schools, but really they're not allowed to talk, and they're getting beaten and abused and all this kind of shit.
Oh, wow.
But it's just a 3-parter. It's quite good. Netflix. What else? I'm rereading a book as well, a Stephen King book, The Institute. I read it a year, 2 years ago, and really, really enjoyed it. But I think I kind of speed read it because I was trying to remember the particulars of it. I was like, I don't really remember this part of life, so I decided to reread that. I think they're making that into a
Is that a recent of his books, or?
Yeah, it's only a few years ago.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's getting a TV show or a series.
Everything he does gets a fucking TV show.
Yeah. But that's pretty much all I've been getting into. And obviously, went to see Dune, which was incredible.
I
do you want to have a quick chat? Go on. Sorry,
I got completely forgot about it yesterday. I picked up PlayStation Portal. One of those things. One of those.
You did you? Yeah.
Streaming.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been kind of on the fence for a while about it, mainly because PlayStation is set up in the sitting room, and if my wife wants to watch something on TV, if we're not watching the same show, I'll just be watching something on my phone, or I can't really play games. And if I'm getting really stuck into a game, and I want to put pressure on her, on her, if I'm just sitting on the couch for fucking 5 hours in the evening, So I said, maybe I'll give this a go. Checked out a load of reviews, and all the negative reviews on this. For anyone who doesn't know, it's like a PlayStation handheld device, but it's not like a Switch or anything. It doesn't actually play any games. It just streams the games from your PlayStation. So a lot of people giving out about that aspect, that it's not a PSP or a Vita or a new PlayStation handheld.
How could it be? How could something that size have the power of the PlayStation 5 in it?
Exactly, yeah. And people are just giving out for the wrong reasons, I think, and I found a good few reviews that honestly said, like if you're looking for something that's just going to help you help the household, where you can play your PlayStation just on the couch or the toilet or in bed or wherever you want to play it. So I said I'd give it a go. It was out of stock for months, and there was one back in place yesterday, so drove out and got it. And it's I was worried actually about the size of the screen in terms of games that are HUD heavy, and Pacific Drive I was talking about is something like that, where there's a lot of things on screen that you need to keep an eye on, the health of different aspects of your person and your car and all that stuff. But the display is crystal fucking clear on this thing, and my wife wasn't even watching TV. I was sitting on the couch, a 40-inch fucking screen on the TV, and sitting there playing this thing. But just because of novelty. But yeah, it's fucking cool, man. It's just like nice having a new little gizmo, and it's reasonably priced.
You do love your gizmos.
Oh yeah.
You do.
Whether it'll be pointless in about 3 days, but it's pretty cool.
That's deadly.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we have a yap then about Dune before we get into our movie review?
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously we're gonna, as we said, we'll keep it spoiler free, but it was fucking amazing. It was exactly what I hoped it would be. It's answering some stuff from the second, which was, I suppose, from the first, first is mostly kind of a setup really for what's to come. And so it's getting more into it, because I never read the books, and I never watched the whole. I remember having it being on the Colin McLaughlin fucking thing, in the background, the original. But I never watched it, so I was going into Dune with a vague. When I saw the first one, with a vague idea of what was going on with Spice and all this shit. But this kind of opened up it a little bit more. But just some of the fucking performances. Timothée Chalamet is fast becoming one of my absolute favorites. Like, everything I see him in, he's fucking class, and he's picking interesting stuff. He's doing some really cool stuff as well. Like, he's done like a lot smaller movies, but he's also doing massive stuff like this and the Wonka movie.
He can do whatever he wants now. Really can.
Yeah,
I think he answered a lot of critics in this, where a lot of people, saying he does play that kind of slight, maybe goofy, can play edgy, can play a lot of those kind of dramatic roles he's played. But in this, can you take him seriously as the leader of these people, or what he's building up to become? And there are moments in the movie where you go, fuck yeah, you can. Like, he really pulls off that he may be kind of slight in stature, but he can deliver a fucking rousing speech, and he can raise his voice like the best of them. It's fucking fantastic. Like, I thought he was great.
Yeah. And it what really goes for me is, like, when you look at the effects. Like, the effects in this movie are staggering when you compare it to some of the stuff we talked about, the Marvel movies on here, and how much have get forked out for them. Like, the effects on show here are absolutely incredible. Like, it looks
and they don't look
amazing.
Like effects. It just looks like they're happening. It looks like they were filmed in camera or something. You're never going, wow, look at that effect. When there's some bits of wreckage of a ship and it's in the trailer where it kind of falls down behind people running, it just looks like, Jesus, looks like they just had some wreckage on strings and just fucking dropped it. And when you see the sandworms, you're not going, wow, what an amazing visual effect. You're going, look at the size of that fucking worm. Or 3 worms, whatever. It's astonishing. And that, like, the clip they released, which was clever of them, which was when he first rides the sandworm, and that's online. When you watch it before the movie, it's like, Jesus Christ, that it's an amazing sequence. But when you see it in the movie, see what's come before it, and just building up to that scene with the score, like Hans Zimmer's score, like he shakes the seats in IMAX like no one else. Like, we'd always say IMAX is great about the screen, but IMAX has always been the sound for me. And Hans Zimmer has your seat fucking shaken to pieces. Like, it's unbelievable. You lose a few calories just sitting there, just fucking. It's unbelievable. But when his score kicks in on that riding sandworm scene, it's just, you just want to get out of your seat and go, yeah, you fucking get in. It blew me away. But we must say that, like, it in the middle of our screening, and I think was a pretty pivotal moment, pivotal moment, because myself and Phil always were front row loopers. We always have the same seats because they never sell out. Which is great. Front row, dead center. But 2 people to the left, a person, a few seats to the left of Phil, he just started. I think he started coughing at one point, and then
Yeah, it's some sort of medical emergency.
yeah, I thought and then someone said he's choking, and then people got up and standing, and you have that moment where you really want to help this guy, but you're just like, I really don't want to miss this, so please don't die, please.
But nobody knew what was happening to him because the woman beside him, who was obviously just trying to help, just started shouting, "Can anybody help? Can anybody help?" And we're like, "But we have to know what's going wrong first.
Yeah.
Like, does he just need a slap on the back? Is he having a fucking aneurysm? Like, what's actually going on here?" So like, eventually he was kind of like, "Oh, I think I'm not sure if it was,
he looked embarrassed or
if he was
something when he came back.
I don't even know if he was just fucking narcoleptic and he just fell asleep. Like, God knows. But anyway, the dude was fine. He was there. But yeah, it happened during some moment where both of us were like, "What did he say? What's it?" So I'll just have to go and see it another fucking 20 times.
Yeah. But coming out of it, that's the first thing I remember saying to you that like I because we went to see it at like afternoon, it was 3:30 or something like that, and there was a showing at 7:30, and pre-kids, mainly just pre-kids, I would be back in there straight away to watch it again. Like it would just be, there'd be no question or no hesitation in my mind. You just wanted more of it. I just want to see all of that again. It didn't seem like 2 hours 45 or whatever it was. Flew by. Absolutely flew by. But it's just it's everything I wanted and more, which is
and like everybody is absolutely on it. Like Austin Butler's character, I love that. So
he's brilliant,
menacing. Like, and Stellan Skarsgård and like in Josh Brolin, like everybody is just. And I'll watch Rebecca Ferguson. Anything. I just watched Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning again at the weekend or during the week. She's incredible. But it's just it's fucking class. Everybody's fantastic in it. It's score is amazing, looks amazing. Like if you're I'd 100% recommend. Like if you haven't watched the first one, it's on Netflix. Watch it and then go and see this. It's a really
see it on the biggest screen you can. See it on the biggest screen you can.
It's funny actually because I was on Twitch following a streamer on Twitch, and in the comments people started talking about Dune, and one of the commenters said it's really good, but it should have just been a TV series. Like, fuck off! Just shut the fuck up. What are you on about? Like, fuck off! Making this as you say, needs to be seen on the biggest screen you could find with the biggest fucking sound system. I don't want to be tuning in. Okay, grand. You can make grand, huge things like fucking the battles we would see in Game of Thrones or whatever, but no, this needs to be seen in a massive movie. It demands it, a massive movie screen. So yeah, if you're on the fence, honestly, go and check it out. It's definitely worth the trip.
And fucking Denis Villeneuve is like, I think we were saying it this week, and we were saying it after the movie. Like he's well on his way to not only being the best sci-fi director around, but just being the best director around. Rivaling maybe even super or. He's definitely in the same conversation as Christopher Nolan. But I mean, you could count the directors that would be able to pull this off. One hand. There's not like I'm putting out two fingers. There's no one really that's been able to pull this off. And it's just he really is in the height of his powers at the moment. Yeah, like I might think like Prisoners, like it's on a sci-fi buzz big time. But if you think back to Enemy and Prisoners and then Sicario, and you remember those three movies, and just kind of going, who the fuck is this guy? But then it was, when Arrival arrived in screens, that's the one I kind of went, holy fuck, this guy is something special. He takes things that are very, very on the page, potentially very convoluted and, high concept, tricky themes. And that includes, Blade Runner and Dune 1 and 2. But he takes these movies that are very difficult on the page to put on the screen, but he takes them and he just makes them easy to watch. And Dune 2 is one of those, like Arrival especially, like that's fucking so convoluted and crazy if you try and explain it to people. When you watch it, it's just so effortlessly told to you. It just makes all perfect sense. And same with Dune 1 and 2. There's so much in those. It's the unfilmable book, and there's so much in it and so much lore, mythology and all that stuff, but it's easily digestible because he just knows how to linger on a shot long enough so you can digest what just came previous and doesn't just overload you. It's just it's just mastery. And
hearing the actors talking about him as well. You know, they're in awe of him as well. I remember Amy Adams talking about him, directing her in Arrival as well, and so much reverence for him. Like his so much respect as well for his vision. He's just he's excellent, really is.
Yeah. Go see it.
Right, well that's it, because if we keep talking we'll end up going We'll park it there on Dune, and I will gladly hand you over to Daz to talk about this week's movie. So Daz, over to you.
So this week we were when we kind of pulled the plug on the Dune 2 review, we said, right, we'll try and pick something that's new and current and whatever, and without actually looking at any Rotten Tomato scores or anything like that, I just looked at a list and something said, Spaceman with Adam Sandler. I was like, oh, this must be, a more dramatic turn again for Adam Sandler, and I love him in Punch Drunk Love and was it Uncut Gems? I love when he turns his hand. When he doesn't play a buffoon most of the time, he does have acting chops. So we said we'd give it a go, and this throughout this movie, I think the word baffling came to my mind. Maybe 100 times, and we'll get into this. And myself and Phil haven't chatted about this, which is fucking great.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear, because
it's a very. We'll set the scene. So, where I have their little synopsis. That the synopsis is even brilliant. Like 6 months into a solitary research mission to the edge of the solar system, Adam Sandler is Jacob, who plays an astronaut on that solo mission, and it's to do some research on this chopper cloud that appeared in the sky 4 years ago. Is it near Jupiter or something like that? Is it near Jupiter?
Oh God, I'm not sure.
But anyway, and he goes there, and he realizes throughout the movie then that maybe the marriage with Carrie Mulligan that he left behind may not be waiting for him when he returns to Earth. And then, throughout this mission, then he is helped by a mysterious creature. We won't say too much now. Voiced by Paul Dano, who works with Jacob to make sense of what went wrong before it's too late. And you're kind of going, okay, that sounds interesting. So, firstly, it's directed by Johan Renck. I don't know how to say a second name. Starring Adam Sandler, Carrie Mulligan, and the alien voiced by Paul Dano. The score is by Max Richter, who is one of my favorite composers, and that's probably the best part of this movie for me. But the director was just before I went even to watch the movie, and before checking any scores or anything like that, I was just check the director, see what he did, and he directed all episodes of Chernobyl, which is one of the most lauded and people say it's one of the best TV series of the last decade. So I was like, oh fucking hell, this might be pretty interesting. But it's absolutely baffling movie. Give me your initial thoughts before we get into. We won't go too in depth scene by scene. We'll try not to.
Yeah, I guess it for this one for me differs a little bit than say some of the other movies that we've done, like Gran Turismo and stuff like that are average, that are meh. There's fun to be knocked out of the review. There's fun to be able to be had. When we agreed to do the review for this, what I was thinking was, shit, there's not much crack we can knock out of this, because it's a meh kind of movie, and as you said, it's more. But the choices throughout are so baffling. Then it's not really a take the piss out of how stupid this person is in this scene. Like, oh, can you believe your man? We're expected to believe. It's the choices that are made by the director, by the screenwriter. From deviating from the source material, and that's what I guess I was almost worried about. Shit, this is going to be one of these ones. Is going to be a very serious one where we're just taking the piss, but not in a very fun way, because the choices are wild. I imagine, based on the themes that are suggested but not explored, that the book is probably quite interesting. I'm sure the book is really out there and explores a lot of stuff, and maybe it's a very difficult book to translate to film, because there's a lot of stuff that's mentioned, touched upon, is never explored, which sounds infinitely more interesting than the movie we're actually served up.
Absolutely.
And it's just, yeah, so it's overall, I found it to be a beautiful looking movie. I thought,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
really loved that aesthetic. I thought it was gorgeous, loved the score, but just really not interesting. There's nothing,
Yeah.
despite what if had they explored the themes that were mentioned,
Mm.
for sure it could be very interesting, but they weren't, and so there's not really anything original, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Sorry. I'm sorry for anybody who's looking at us rather than listening. I have to pick this dog up because he's gone fucking bananas all over the ground.
our extra viewer, what's the dog's name again?
The dog, Chief.
Yeah, Chief. Welcome, Chief. What are your views on the movie, Chief? No, but yeah, so
Yeah, rough.
yeah, good one. Yeah, it's hard to kind of plod through the first bit without just kind of just want to get to the main reveal, but like I try and set it up like he's been 6 months on this mission. He's obviously very lonely, but doesn't think he is. He's trying to he's just doing the mundane tasks of trying to get the ship fixed and fighting with mission control about priorities. Once the toilet fixed, and they're saying no, the cameras need to be fixed and all this kind of shit. And then there's a scene where I think he wakes up, or he's in a dream, and a spider, something's inside his face, and then like a spider starts crawling out. And like, I must preface this to say, like, I had no fucking idea about like the spiders kind of play a pretty pivotal role in this movie. And my good friend Phil hates spiders and has a pretty severe phobia about spiders. So I haven't said that to you. I must apologize. But when just even this scene when it's all a spider kind of coming out of Adam Sandler's mouth, it's just like, oh fuck, Phil is going to hate that scene. Little did I know where this movie actually goes. But yeah, like he wakes up from that dream, and you're kind of going, what the fuck is all that about? A spider. But yeah. Will I just get to the? Is there anything you want? Yeah, we'll just get to like.
No, we can point out different things about the movie as we go on, but yeah, you can jump.
Like
you might as well jump into
just get to a moment, something's malfunctioning on the ship or something like that, and the ship is really well designed. Like I love the way they've decided the layout of it. Like that main kind of cabin area is nice and big and wide, and probably unnaturally so, but for the purposes of the cinematography, it's brilliant. And Adam Sanders, floats over to this door where we've already been in there earlier on in the movie, where a certain thing he just has to switch off or something, but he just opens the door and you just get this fucking shock reveal, but with it's not a horror shock or anything like that, or music cues. He just opens the door and there's just like a fucking 14-foot spider. Just
well, it's not that big. It is big, but it's it's just, I think that the initial shock, because it's not
it's
a spider, because that's the thing, it's not a spider. Like, it looks like a spider, yet it's got some like tentacle kind of things, and it's and it's like that he around its gob, and then its legs are slightly not spider legs or something else, but it was spidery enough that I was uncomfortable for most of the movie watching it. But at the same time, like, this is, as you said in the opening, is voiced by Paul Dano. Like, that fucking voice, man. I wish he could just read me a story, put me asleep every night, man. It is the most relaxing, calming. That's probably what helped me get through the fact that there was a spider on screen for most of the movie, was the fact that it was voiced by him, and it was so calming, so relaxing. Like, if you were having a panic attack, you could just have him telling you that everything is okay.
It's okay. Just relax.
Yeah, it was. I loved his voice, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, and this spider alien thingy has numerous eyes, but has a little tiny little mouth as well.
Yeah, it's so
which
weird.
Is like just such a weird choice. Just kind of makes you're both terrified and kind of squirmy looking at it, but then you're just like, oh, look at his little mouth when he's talking. Oh, it's incredible. But yeah, he obviously trips out when he sees the fucking spider and tries to exit in the airlock, and spider's talking to him and saying, don't be afraid, I'm not here to consume you, blah blah. And Adam Sandler's asking him, is he real? And he's just like, I'm as real as you are. And it's so calming. And some of the best things in this movie probably are some conversations they have to each other about life and existence and all that kind of shit. But yeah, this is you're 20 minutes into the movie, and this alien spider has arrived, and yeah, it's quite quite unnerving. What were your thoughts like 20 minutes in? You're going, where? For me, it was like, where the fuck? Where are we going? Like, where are we going with
Yeah,
this?
well, we have it like because we've gotten to this point of introducing them. I know, I get it. We're going to spend most of the time is going to be spent in space, but we haven't explained enough about what's happening back on Earth. Like, it's so Czechoslovakia is still a country, and they're obviously ahead of everybody in the space race. They're going to be the first country, but they don't explain why this is. They don't explain why Isabella Rossellini, Carey Mulligan, and Adam Sandler are all Czechoslovakian, yet have fucking American accent, an English accent. They don't. There's none of that. Like, at least when you've got, say, something like 300, where or one of these movies where they do something historical, and they just say fuck it, and they just give everybody British accents because they're like, okay, just pick at one accent and give. Fair enough. We get it. You're doing it because you have to do. They don't just stick one or two random people with different accents, But it's all the Spartans are all basically have British accents, And that's okay. We'll just accept that, But to have these three individual Czech people with three wildly different accents didn't make any sense, and they don't. It's not. None of that is explained. We don't get explained this phenomenon, which is like. They say it has appeared like 4 years ago, so it's not something that's just being discovered. This is some new phenomenon that he's going to be the first person to go and interact with and explore. That it's almost, well, okay, why did it appear 4 years ago? Under what circumstances? There's nothing is explained. We're just kind of thrown into this relationship with him and the spider creature.
Yeah, it's not that it was a danger or anything like that. It's not that like, it's appeared.
Exactly.
This cloud has
it's
appeared.
Not like the world is in danger.
Yeah, it's kind of like a research mission, but it's such a solitary mission, such a lonely mission. And Spider, mentions that it can help him with his solitude and all this. The Spider apparently is some. I got lost on the backstory. I watched this movie in 4 parts, by the way. This part I'm talking about now, I watched about a week ago. But yeah, I think Spider is. We're calling him Spider, right? It's easy.
He's from Hanush or Manouche.
Hanush, yeah. He gives him Adam Sandler gives him a name, Hanush, and he's like from the beginning of time or some shit like that. Is he? He's been around forever. This Spider.
Yeah. Again, they barely answer the question. Like Adam Sandler actually asks him, like, can your people die or da da da? And he just, he kind of half answers it
and then he moves on to it. Nothing else. It's just like there's fucking 40 more questions you're asking this fucking spider guy. It's just like, why do you have a mouth? Well, like, what's going on here? Like, because he heard the spider at one point through the intercom, and just before he appeared, and just like, how the fuck did that happen? And he seems to be Adam Sandler seems to be having kind of visions or memories that are brought on by the spider.
Yeah,
some way.
That's where he dug into it. He asked him as well. He's like, did you put that thing? Why are you remembering that? And he's like, no, I'm remembering it's through you. So it's something like
we're remembering
Hanush
it together or something like. What the fuck
so Hanush is kind of being able to see his kind of memories, and then while Hanush is seeing them for the first time, Adam Sandler is remembering them.
Yeah.
But it's just. Again, it's just none of this is fully explored. Like, we're talking about that, we touch on themes of the beginning and ending of the universe, the creation of the universe, of life itself. Like, all these themes are mentioned or are hinted towards, but nothing that interesting is ever gone towards. It's basically a story of him and his estranged Mrs. Carey Mulligan and the shit that's gone through, because he keeps leaving on these missions and she's left behind and he's emotionally distant. And he just comes off like he doesn't come. I just found him to just be a selfish prick. I didn't really find anything. He's great, obviously a great actor, and I enjoy him doing serious roles. But it just wasn't. I didn't find the character endearing or enjoyable.
No. It sets up so much stuff emotionally in the first hour that it tries to pay off towards the end, which we'll get to. But they don't land because I understand when it comes to it that he has, oh, he sees the error of his ways and all this stuff. I understand that, but I just don't give a shit,
Yeah.
But his wife, Carrie Mulligan, is pregnant. And yeah, she decides while he's on this mission, she decides to send him a message that is intercepted by Mission Control, and they decide not to send it to Adam Sandler, where she leaves him, which I know is another kind of like, really is, why are you choosing now? And I think she's chatting with her mom at one point or something like that, and she's told like it is a crazy time to tell him why now, and she's just like, I should have done it ages ago, but I have to do it now. And it's like, well, he's off and he's fucking flying around Jupiter. Like, what do you think you're going to do? Like, that's a nice thing to fucking do. Yeah, I didn't understand. There wasn't enough weight, and she's not in enough scenes to really get her side of it. You understand he's been distant and all that, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of a shitty move to to someone who's a lonely ass guy in the middle of fucking nowhere. It's just like, he's coming back apparently soon anyway. He's was it 6 months to get there, and then he's at the cloud pretty much when we begin the movie. So he's going to be home in 6 months? Just fucking wait and tell him to his face. Fucking bitch.
Yeah, everyone in this movie is a dickhead.
Yeah, dickhead.
But there's not enough. Like there's not enough back on Earth either. Like we get bits and pieces of Isabella Rossellini. She kind of, her and her staff are kind of in constant contact, even though he's way out, and as you said, Jupiter or whatever. There's they are cutting back there, but there's not enough really interesting stuff when they're back there. There's plenty of opportunity there to explain more about what's going on. Isabella Rossellini visits obviously Harry Mulligan to try and say to her, listen, you got to hang on. This is a really bad time. But basically what you were just after saying, this is really shitty timing. Like he's out there, he's alone. It's a dangerous mission. All this kind of stuff. Don't be such a selfish cunt. There's not enough time spent. She could have spent more time back there, and given us more backstory as to what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, because there's many times where there are a few moments in it where Adam Sandler's obviously been out of contact with him for a while or something like that, because he's off chatting to the fucking spider or whatever. But and when he gets back in contact with them, it's Mission Control. They do say, "Oh, we're freaking out here" or something, but it's you never see their point of view of freaking out about anything. And you're just, why are you freaking out? Because he wasn't in contact with you for 6 hours. It felt very if you're going to show Mission Control and show these characters, show us a bit more, or else just stick with Adam Sandler. But there's a great moment that actually is set up as bewilderingly set up as an emotional beat later on in the movie, where the spider asks, does he have any eggs that he wants to sample or something like that. And Adam Sandler says he doesn't have any, but he gets out a
Nutella, basically
a tub of chocolate spread or whatever, American Nutella, and gives it to the spider, and the spider goes, "Oh, I love it," or whatever. And little
reminds me
of
home.
Yeah. And at that point, you're just going, "Okay, this is fucking ridiculous." But there's a moment later on that it just ruins. We'll get to it later on. But the chocolate spread appears later on in one of the worst creative decisions I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
But Spider says, talks about the cloud and says it holds much wisdom, and the cloud is pulling them in, and he says inside this cloud, this chopper cloud, which the visuals for that are fucking fantastic. Would love to see that on the big
gorgeous,
screen. Yeah. Purple cloud. It's just really, really nice. He says that inside that is the beginning. And up to this point, I think we're almost an hour in, and at this point there's a constant kind of melancholy score, which is really nice, but it's constantly kind of undercutting the movie at certain points, where it's if you think about a narrative thrust, the first hour is just, it kind of plods along. There's things happening, but you never get a sense of any momentum. It's a really long hour. It's a really, I wouldn't say boring, but it's just like, where are you going? You know what I mean? If you were in a cinema, you're looking at your watch every 5 minutes. I just found that the first half just really struggling to struggling to get to grips with it. Essentially, you should not be asking the first hour of a movie, where the fuck is this going? You know what I mean? There should
Yeah.
be some incentive to hang around. At yeah, Jesus Christ. But some of the weightlessness effects here, as much as the movie looks great, it just, after seeing movies like Gravity and stuff like that, this just, it looks like the old school,
Yeah.
like they're on wires and they just obviously
They
moving
and they're very careful not to give too many full body shots of them in
yeah.
weightlessness. You know what I mean? Like you see, like you say, for Gravity, and you see Sandra Bullock and thing, and they're grabbing themselves, pulling themselves around from section to section. We see it in Martian and all these other things as well, and it's done really well. They very carefully stay away from doing full body shots because they're obviously the hardest ones to do. So really, you could just have a couple of dudes off screen, you know what I mean? Holding them up and carrying them along like fucking Superman. But I agree. Some of those look very awkward. Like.
Yeah, and Carrie Mulligan then, like she says, she would tell her daughter after she is born that she loved her daddy and loved his ambition, but she was wrong. And this is like she says this quote, like, people are wrong all the time. And I didn't know what she meant there in some of these scenes. But like Adam gives, this is where Adam gives the spider his name, Hanush. And it's after some guy in Prague who made the famous clock in Prague or something like that. It's just like, okay. But they continue to explore Adam Sandler's history with carried through flashbacks that the spider is orchestrating. And then there is, where was I thinking of here? There's one awful fucking scene. That's when the NASA lady, you touched on that, where she meets Carrie Mulligan and tells her, she's not doing well, and she delivers some nonsensical shit about them both being in silence, and that being the whole point, that her and Adam Sandler were just constantly in silence. And it's one of those scenes where it was the first point of the movie where I just went, that's an awful, awful fucking scene. Just took me completely out of the movie, just kind of going, oh, you're faltering here. You can kind of see what he's trying to do at like so many moments through the movie. You can see in his head, like, this is what he wants to do, the kind of mood he wants to convey, that ominous kind of solitude, and it just meanders awfully. And what did you think then of when we start getting towards some of the madder kind of flashbacks, when we start getting closer to this chopper cloud?
There's some kind of sweet ones, there's some kind of nice ones of the two of them, like the kind of costume party where they've met, and
it's nice, yeah.
He's in the stuff, and there are some touching moments, but for the most part, I couldn't get invested in them. I couldn't get invested in them. Neither of them are likable characters. Neither Carrie Mulligan or him are likable enough for you to kind of want to root for them, to whether it's to get back together for anything like that. And I think maybe they try to do that with these flashbacks to go, look how in love, or look how things like, well, he's the reason he's gone on this space mission and is able to go on these space missions is because he's so okay with being alone. This is the person that he is, and this the whole time. You've married him. You've not only married him, but gone on to get pregnant. You've been around him. He's done these missions before. That all of a sudden it's some sort of revelation of, oh God, I can't deal with this guy. He's so distant. It's like, you knew from day one, because this is the person that he is. He's a product of how awful his upbringing was. We see flashbacks to life with his family and how difficult things were. You knew this the whole time. So it's just as if this is some revelation now while he's away, that now is the time. It's just. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it, and I didn't like either of them. And
there's a scene where they show one of the flashbacks where Carrie Mulligan had a miscarriage, and just after the miscarriage, there's a phone call, and Adam Sandler obviously hears about it, and we see she's very sad and in pain or whatever, and we see how distant, they show how distant he is, where he's uncomfortable with that conversation that she's just had a miscarriage. And he kind of goes, the frying pan is steaming while he's cooking. He just goes, oh, sorry, got an emergency, got to go. So he just makes an excuse to get off the phone call, and kind of going, okay, I get how raw and believable you want that scene to play out and really give an honest depiction of his character. But it just straight away from that, you're just going, I fucking hate this guy. Like, that's,
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people out there that, you know, that do that and exist, and that's how they go about their life. But don't make them the protagonist in your fucking movie to care about when they fly to a fucking cloud in 45 minutes time. I don't fucking care. But and the spider makes good point then, where he's just saying to him, and this is, they have a couple of not so much heart to hearts, but just nice dialogue moments. But Spider says that, like, he says, how can you not see that your relationship is failing, and the possibility and likelihood that your wife will be there when you get back, it's, why would you think that's actually a possibility? How can you not see the signs that this is going to fail? And that's, I don't know, is Spider supposed to be our point of view looking at
Because
Adam
it was.
Sandler? Yeah.
Because it is, because you're sitting there going, he's fucking right, listen to the giant spider. You're a dickhead. Like,
Yeah. Change your ways, listen to the spider. Look, he's got a mouth. He's got a mouth. And he loves Nutella. He's fucking speaks the truth, man. But then the spider, says he's leaving him. And this is when they're trying to tug at the heartstrings, or Adam Sandler like, please don't leave me now, because he's not on his own anymore and has a little buddy. But the spider says he's leaving him to his mission. Said his interest in him has expired. And you're going, that's fucking pretty cool. Adam, Sandler tries to stop the spider and touches him, and then fucking terrifying when the spider just goes home and just pins him against the bulkhead. And just goes, don't touch me. And just like, oh, holy fucking hell. That was terrifying. Just the physical interaction with them was pretty fucking great. But then we get to, and this is the strange part, where this is another baffling moment, where my favorite part of the movie is when the spider leaves, even though the spider is the most interesting part of the movie, which is kind of strange. So after the spider leaves, we get flashback to Adam and Carrie, their first date kiss. Max Richter's score just goes into fucking overdrive here. It's gorgeous. We get lovely shots then of Adam Sandler spinning around on the station with like a bottle of vodka, just obviously drowning his sorrows. And it's just, and then shots of Adam Sandler in tears, and it's just a lovely 4 or 5 scenes that just, the emotional weight, and it's more probably, you take the score out of it, it probably doesn't hit home as much, but it just, that 3 or 4 minutes works brilliantly. And I was like, this is fucking great. Like, it was just, the shots matched the music perfectly. Wonderful see. And that, for me, gave an indication of what the director was kind of going for. He wanted this feeling to be throughout the entire movie for this. But this, you could take these shots and these moments without what came before it, and they'd still be nice shots and a nice sequence, if you know what I mean. Just, I thought that was fantastic few scenes. But yeah, the spider's gone, you know, and it's like, oh god. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, as I said, I found a lot of these scenes, they tried to put the emotional weight, but it's not really landing. But it's, that is cool. But I have to agree, though. I think that it comes down to the score, and we both know how much a score can add to a movie. We mentioned Hans Zimmer in the opening. I mean, many times have you and I seen him live, having an emotional experience without even seeing what the movie being on. You know what I mean? So that the score can make a massive difference. And look at Max Richter. I mean, that tune. You mentioned Arrival earlier on, you know, and his tune. That's obviously, it's used in a bunch of movies. What is it? Daylight, something or other. I can never remember the name. You know, it can really make a scene. And so, that does add to it. But again, it didn't make, even having those scenes didn't really add any more weight for me to. It didn't add any stakes for me to go, oh, you know what? I'm rooting for them. You know?
No, especially because after that lovely sequence ends, you know, you're back to the movie, and it's like, oh, we're back here again, and it's like that lofty feeling that I had for those few scenes just fell apart again. It was just like, God, it's like someone just played a nice music video in the middle of a fucking movie, in the middle of a bad movie. But Spider eventually comes back, which is great. Spider says he's dying, and Adam Sandler and Spider, they hug it out, which is just the maddest visual. You ever see full on fucking spider human hug, and we get a shot even behind Adam Sandler floating in the ship with the 8 fucking legs hugging around his back. It's just like, fuck me. Like, I bet you Phil is going wild.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
God.
Yeah. And yeah, I think around that point or before that was like these little particles from the dust start appearing in the ship. I didn't quite understand what was going on there. They were kind of showing him different visions or something like that.
Yeah,
And he
like
tries
Hanu
yeah,
seemed to know, but didn't give us a didn't give us a full
yeah.
explanation.
Just the cloud was kind of not invading the ship, but a few particles from the cloud just arrives in the ship,
He
and
tries, yeah, he tries to take a sample and he can't because it's able to float through matter and
yeah.
stuff.
And then they start beginning to take samples of the cloud, and Spider begins to die and starts to leave the ship, and Adam goes out in a spacesuit to save his friend, and he tries a ridiculous maneuver involving a gas tank as a projectile.
It's
The,
yeah,
yeah.
it's so that they kind of set it up early on in this in the movie when he first sees the spider. He isn't sure if he's seen shit or not. So
Yeah.
these gas tanks are basically
Mm.
like a bug bomb, like
Mm.
and so he asks them at home. He goes, "Can I have permission to set one of these things off
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of clear it out? I think just to make sure there's no parasites that might ruin the mission." And so it kind of sets up that these things are on board. And just as an aside, that's one of the things I kind of did like about the movie was that those ads that he's forced to do. Like it's so commercialized. Like he's in space, yet he has to advertise that if he's having like a protein bar or he wants to do this bug bomb thing. Before he uses it, he has to say the slogan, because the whole world are kind of watching this guy in space. And I did like that because it's so grim. It's like the poor fucking Ryanair hostess trying to hawk me a fucking lottery ticket. It's just like you just let them do the fucking job. You know what I mean? Like don't make them be whores for your fucking poxy ass extra few quid you want to make, you cunt. But sorry, really upset with the Michael O'Leary. Anyway, that's how they set up this bomb, bug bomb thing, and that's what he tries to do. Because I think hasn't he mentioned at this point, Vinush, that he's told him actually I wasn't fully truthful. I'm actually my world that was destroyed by these whatever the name of these things are actually eating me, and that's even worse because now I can see this big gigantic gross spider, and I can see underneath his skin, he's got gross bugs underneath his skin that are eating him.
Fucking,
it's gonna make this like this movie was made to upset me, like Ugh. Gross.
Yeah, it's but yeah, they end up kind of hugging it out again in space, and they get engulfed in the chopper cloud. And Adam Sandler is saying, "Oh, this might be a bad place to end things and all that." And this is where they. What did you think when they enter the cloud? It gets kind of tries to be very poignant and tries to.
Oh yeah, it tries to be Interstellar, essentially. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which that's basically what it tries to do. And it's just it again, as you said, it's trying to be. You've left it too late to try and do anything super deep with this because you've had multiple opportunities throughout the movie to go in and explore some of these themes and explore something like you said. What's on the other side? What's the meaning of life? What is this? You've tons of opportunity to do this and didn't do it. And trying to just tack this on at the end was just, it didn't work.
But sorry.
Chief, stop it.
And that's the movie. No, Spider was saying that this isn't the end. I'll show you, and this is the end and the beginning inside the cloud, and all this fucking. He's like, all things are here. Like all vibrations through time and space are found here, your past, present, and future. And then Sandler has a realization, oh my God, everything he thought he wanted is here except her. And it's like, oh my God, yeah, is he gonna get the girl? But like in the spot this is the moment. Like this is all built up again, gorgeous visuals, gorgeous score. The Adam Sandler trying his best, Paul Dano's they're all just doing their best in the scene. At this point, they are setting up this beautiful, poignant, beginning and end of the world and all this kind of ethereal shit. And the score's going crazy, as we mentioned. And the spider is in his last moments and he's aware of that. And Adam Sandler opens his little pouch in the spacesuit and takes out a tub of fucking Nutella to give the spider as he's about to die in the middle of space in this fucking crazy purple cloud anomaly. It just like I just thought that I'd bring some Nutella with me just in case, just to soothe your last moments, alien spider. And just like this is the poignant last meal with his mate. I know what they're trying to do, but it's fucking like I just burst out laughing. I absolutely I just went, "Are you fucking shitting me? Like what? Why? Like why? This is something." First draft goes, "Yeah, that's interesting," but fuck no, we're not doing that.
And it doesn't even make any sense. Like the part before it doesn't make any sense. Like so while that spider's on the ship, he set off this bug bomb thing full of gas. There's no mention of is that killing going to help him with these bugs that are eating him inside out. Then he's out in space, and so Adam Sandler launches, and he's getting obviously eaten alive. Adam Sandler launches the bug bomb, whatever, and he goes, "Yeah, like you've spared me and given me an extra few minutes of life by launching that bug bomb thing." Well, why isn't that mentioned earlier on? Why doesn't he say earlier on, "Oh, thanks for setting that thing off on the ship. I'm actually dying of this thing, and this thing helped me." There's no mention of this thing or why this bug bomb would help these small little alien creatures that can exist in the vacuum of space that are eating this giant spider. Why would that bug bomb work on them?
Beginning of time.
Yeah, why would any of that work? They don't touch on it, they don't mention it. Why would Adam Sandler think that would work? Why are we expected to believe that it did help or stall anything? And
what's the point of it anyway? Just like, oh, give me a few more minutes. It's like fucking Independence Day and uploading a virus from a fucking 1995 PC to a galactic fucking computer and just like, just go with it. You know what I mean? At least that had a pivotal point in that movie. But this is like, what the fuck is the point of this bug bomb? Like, it doesn't really serve any purpose whatsoever. It just makes you ask more questions, which is again fucking baffling. The word of the day. But back on Earth, then Carrie notices these purple specks from the cloud flying around as she's walking around up a fucking mountain.
But doesn't he ask? He asks to leave a thing first, doesn't he? Yeah. Before this, he's asked because he's now realized the errors of his way. And then he asks to ring her. He says, "You don't have to talk back." And he rings and leaves her this big message about how much he still cares for all the mistakes that he made and just trying to say, but like, I cannot believe that. You can't buy that. You can't have that revelation now. When that's the person you haven't been that person your whole life. We've seen your relationship. You weren't like that in your relationship. You're a product of the trauma and stuff that you went through as a child. That's why it's why he's able to do that mission. As I said, he can't have, as I said, an Interstellar style revelation of stuff when that's not the person that you are. And we've seen throughout the movie that isn't the person you are. So that call of him like, "Oh God, if I could make it back to Earth, everything would be different. I could fix it."
It's only because you're alone on a fucking ship.
Yeah,
you're just and you're redemption, about to die. That you went, "Oh shit, I don't want to die alone," and that's not enough to let us buy into that.
Exactly. It's not believable. We've seen enough of their relationship. We've seen enough of him.
It's toxic. They should not be together. Like
no, exactly. Yeah. So and it's just there's no first of all there's no emotional weight to it, and also it's not believable.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, as you said, like some of the flashbacks that we see are kind of quite nice and poignant throughout the movie, but they also show like some of the later flashbacks to when their relationship is toxic, and you kind of that's where it went, and that's where it is, and it's not fucking working. Like, I just that was bizarre anyway. But Carrie Mulligan is fucking walking in the wilderness in a mountain somewhere, and she sees this purple. I just didn't understand this either. She sees one of the purple chopper cloud particles just like flying around beside her. And at this point, I think it's intercut with Adam Sandler when he's like when the spider has died and got consumed by those fucking
maggots,
like maggots or something. Yeah, it's pretty fucking horrible. But he calls out her name. I can't even remember her name. He calls out her name, and then it cuts to Carrie Mulligan up a mountain and a purple fucking particle flying around from the cloud, and she looks up and she goes, what's his name again? What's Yanuk?
Jacob and Lena.
Jacob. Yeah. And it's just a moment where, oh, she knows, it's him or him calling to her, and just, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what's this one particle doing on like billions of fucking miles away? Like, what? Just, I know there's probably like, oh, but it means this and this and this, but it's, at this point, you're just going to fuck off. Like, it's absolute nonsense. Eventually, she does take his call in another baffling last scene of the movie. She takes his call and he asks her, would she, knowing what she knows now, would she still have kissed him back then, knowing, what would come afterwards? And you're kind of going, okay, this is like trying to, again, you're saying trying to tie into Interstellar. This is a moment where they're trying to tie into fucking Arrival or something. Like, if you went back and did it, would you kiss me again if you knew what was going to come? And it's just such a throwaway thing. But to which she replies, it was a really good kiss. And then we cut to black, and that's the fucking end of the movie. That's how they decided to end it. Like, that's the final line you chose to end your fucking movie. It's just so poorly judged. It's so underwhelming. And it just stinks. Like, what the fuck is going on here? What was the point of this movie? Like,
if I was the writer of this book, I would be pissed off because I like, from the little bit of background research I did on it was just that the book is really out there and does explore some interesting themes and ask some interesting questions. But if I was if that is true, well then if I'm the guy who wrote that book, I'm looking at this going, how did you make this out of my book? You took probably the least interesting part. This is just about some guy and his estranged missus. You know what I mean? This is all this ultimately is. A buddy movie and then a guy and his estranged missus. It doesn't even have to be told in space. Like, it's those things are all, they make it that relationship the central part of this story, and there's so much other.
That's the least interesting part.
Yeah,
of the story.
So much other stuff they could have done that's way more interesting. But there could have been a great movie here because it looks great. Adam Sandler is just, his character is shit, but like, he acts out. I assume with what he's given, but it's just his character is a dickhead. But like, it looks great. It's a very interesting idea that in the future it's the Czechs, Czechoslovakia is still a country and da. Like, it's this interesting stuff there that they just don't bother diving into, and instead they make the really least interesting part about this whole world and story. They make it the main fucking focus, and it's. Yeah. And when there are two people that you don't like and don't care about,
that's
well, then
the main
you're on
problem.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster,
But it's I must add that, like, when it ends, it cuts to black, and then they do that fucking thing where the title comes up, then bang, Spaceman, and it's like something Christopher Nolan started with The Dark Knight or whatever, and it works in his movies because it works at the end of Interstellar or whatever, because you're like, bang, cut to black, and then the title comes up and cool music, and you're going, fuck, wow. But this doesn't even fucking have cool text. It's just like fucking Arial Black or something. Just like, there we go. And it's, the movie just doesn't warrant that kind of thing. The credit comes up afterwards. It's just like,
it's
not grand
if you're
enough.
going to put that in, exactly, it has to have gravitas, that moment. It has 100%. To end on a note that when you land that in, like you said, you're not expecting the thing to hit black, and then you get the title of like, holy shit, and it's basically a gigantic it's a huge full stop on the movie. At the end, bam. But like you said, it ends on such a shitty line and a shitty end of scenes that putting this fucking bam period full stop at the end, that's made it probably worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What kind of movie do you think this is? Like, from an editing point of view, even, but like, it's just, it's a mess. But one thing constantly stuck in my head, as I said, it's just, I was perpetually baffled throughout the movie, but it was not by like its plot or lofty themes or whatever it's trying to go for. I was just baffled that it actually kind of exists, where you're kind of going, some films, are not going to be good. You see Rebel Moon or these kind of things. You're just like, it's going to be pretty shit. And like Madam Web we talked about last week, some movies just don't even fucking try. They're just like, they don't fucking give a shit. But like, this came out of nowhere for me. Directed by, your man who did Chernobyl with great cast. Like, Carey Mulligan's nominated for an Oscar this year, I think, which is fucking... it's got an amazing composer and all that kind of shit.
But as you said, like, this movie obviously wasn't testing well. I mean, there's a reason, as you said, that this movie, how did this get made? This was in production for 3 years. This was in this was like because it didn't test well at all. So I don't know what the original fucking versions that didn't test well, but it didn't test well and took it was, I think, as far as I know, I think filming was finished in 2021 or something like that. So for it to take this long to come out, obviously means that they were fucking either whether it was rewrites or what they were doing in the background before they released it. Were they going to put it in cinemas and went, fuck it, we're not going to be able to now? I don't know what the background is there, but there was a long amount of time that before it got released, like a huge gap because it didn't test well, and I can see why it didn't test well. So as you said, is it one of those things where the book is just so out there that it's one of these unfilmable things? I don't know, but
it makes filmed it. No, it makes sense when you said that, actually, but it's been in production for so long, because it kind of strikes me as a movie where, especially that first hour, where it just meanders. There's no kind of thrust to it. Even the score, it's just, everything just feels so one note for ages. It's like you're watching one really long scene for 45 minutes. It's like someone's trying to channel their inner 2001 or something. But it just doesn't. But that is, it could potentially be a product of it being, a fifth or sixth edit of the movie. Yeah. Where they've kind of that's not working. Let's just put these bits together or rearrange something, and let's keep the score going, because there's just music constantly at certain moments that it just doesn't seem where it's going anywhere in terms of emotionally or fucking narratively. Just fucking weird, it's just baffling movie.
And that's as I said from the start, it's not one of these things you can kind of go, this is bad, let's take the mick out of it. It's just meh. You know what I mean? There's nothing new with regards to anything, because it didn't explore any of the themes. So when you just look at it from normal sci-fi stuff and normal relationship stuff, then there's absolutely nothing new there. Because because they don't go into all the weird ass themes, apart from Anush, there's not really anything else that's come into it. It's just a fucking relationship between two people I don't give a shit about. And there's nothing new space-wise that hasn't been done in another sci-fi movie. So there's nothing new here. It's just all very meh. It's just a completely middle-of-the-road movie. It's not entertaining enough to keep you hooked in, because you don't care about the characters. And
it's like the spider. The spider is servicing the human character in the story, which I think is the wrong decision. It should be the other way around. The spider is far more just I want to know more about that guy. And where'd you get your little mouse from?
This is me and my fucking arachnophobia. And
more spiders.
And I was like, more Paul Dano, because he was
so good.
Great. Loved the voice. I loved the way how calming it was. He was the one asking all the questions. He was the one asking.
And some of their scenes together are really, really, really nice in terms of they could have expanded a lot more, but just the way, just their back and forth and the way they're talking about themes of life and fucking death and solitude and loneliness. But there's not enough of that. They're just fleeting moments, and it goes back to, as you said, there's too much of people I either don't really know about or don't give a shit about, which is not the way to go.
Yeah, it's middle of the road sci-fi, not interesting. It'd be very much, because it's middle of the road, I'd probably go 2.5 stars just to go 2.5 stars out of 5, just because it's so. It's
interesting. It looks in its absurdity.
Yeah, and this it looks great. The score is great, and Adam Sandler in a dramatic role is always worth watching. I think that I'm always impressed with him, that when he's in those type of roles, that those are the things that give it that bit of thing. But it's just not. There's much better sci-fi available.
100%.
Out there. Yeah. Right, cool. Well, look, thanks very much for talking us through that, Daz, because I know that can't be an easy one to bring us through.
Yeah, I'll pick better next time.
It was probably a bit of a slog, I'd imagine, for you. So fair play to you. Definitely did your best with what we had. Okay, well then, will we move on then to the retro corner?
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do it.
Right, so with the retro corner this week, I thought, because there's a recent release of the Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 kind of remastered came out, I thought it'd be interesting to kind of go back and look at where it all started and have a quick yap about the original game. So this one came out way back in 1996, so nearly 30 years ago.
Wow.
And Eidos had bought out Core Design, who were this like small English studio. I think only like half a dozen people or something work for them, and they at the time were working on this like action adventure game. That went on to become Tomb Raider. They were initially looking at like a male character, like Indiana Jones style kind of character, but then I think Eidos were the ones that said, "Here, let's change it because we don't want to get sued, of just copyright issues and stuff." And that's how Lara Croft was born. But did you, when this came out, because I know you weren't a big PlayStation guy when it first came out, you were mostly Nintendo. Did you play this when it came out?
No, and I still have never played any of those remastered ones. So I'm looking forward to actually maybe picking that up and having a go. I was on the outside looking in.
Right, okay.
Very jealously, with a lot of jealousy, because it looked great, and that was the 96 was the big boom in terms of 3D games really starting to come into their own. Obviously Mario 64, but like Tomb Raider and the like. But yeah, never. I watched many people play it, and then because it was so anti fucking PlayStation, just like, do you want to go? No. Just like take the fucking controller. Like. Yeah, total absolute fucking spite. Just I'll wait. I'll play it when it comes onto Nintendo. Never fucking gonna happen. Like, but I never played it at all. What was it like control wise? Was it up there? Or was it a bit
I'll get into the controls. I'll get into the controls as we go on. Like they weren't great, but like it was amazing at the time when it came out, though. You know what I mean? Because we're talking like what they wanted to do with regards to the 3D environment, as you said. But were limited by the hardware. So even though the PlayStation and N64 were a massive jump up from the previous generation, it's still limited for what they wanted to do. Everything is essentially gigantic blocks with different texture added. You know what I mean? They're huge blocks mostly, and then they just add, okay, let's put this one and make it look like it's a brick. This one's going to look like it's dirt. But they're just basically huge, gigantic blocks. And like there was so little. Like if you were to go back and look at it now, like there's not much in the way of outdoor levels, but when they are, they didn't even put a sky in. Like there's one part where you're running around like a jungle where there's fucking like velociraptor things and stuff. There's no sky. Like if you look up, all you see above you is black. Like, and it's supposed to be set during the day. So it's not even just black with some stars that move around. There's no
it's very
actual
ambitious.
there's no actual box for the sky at all. It's not animated at all. It's literally just a void. It's so mad. Like and because they weren't really messing around with lighting effects yet in games, or at least they weren't on the PlayStation. So it was still amazing though, despite that. Because they were reaching for the fucking stars with this thing, based on the hardware that they had. Like the story was kind of done based on what we've come to expect from action adventure games. Like a story wasn't a big thing in action games back then. Like it was in RPGs with your Zeldas and all that kind of stuff. But for action adventure games, no one really gave a shit about story. Sometimes you'd play the whole whole game through and then get a title card at the end. Everybody lived happily ever after. You just get something.
It was great.
But so they actually put like a story into this one. It was like Lara Croft was hired by some company to raid tombs to put together some yoke. So you travel around to like Peru and all these other places. Like it's a mixture of real world countries and like forgotten cities. I think you're in Atlantis and everything in the first game. So you're fighting fucking zombie monsters and fucking dinosaurs. I think actually that's one thing that differs. Like you've played the more recent
ones, much more realistic.
Which is really, really good. Yeah, much more realistic, voiced by Camilla Luddington, who does a great job, and it's much more survival kind of based. And obviously it's action, but it's more. It really is more of a survival kind of game. But in those, your majority of times you're killing dudes. It's an armies of dudes you're killing. But in this, it's mostly just killing animals and monsters. Like they don't really explain how you're in this fucking temple, underground, undiscovered temple, and all of a sudden that you're met by a fucking grizzly bear. There's no mention about how the fuck this thing got in there.
I've seen clips of the dinosaur. Like, how the fuck is that explained? Like, how are you fighting the dinosaur?
It's barely explained in it. It's just that these are untouched parts of the same way. If you go and see a fucking Kong versus Godzilla movie now, and there's fucking a world under the ground that we've somehow never heard of, and there's gigantic creatures, and they can just make up whatever the fuck they want. That's basically what they were doing here. Like I think that obviously this spurred on, a lot of great action adventures after it came after it, the likes of what's it called, what's Uncharted and stuff,
Oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
but these, it was so over the top, with this, that I think as they get into the kind of moved on into later games that were coming out alongside Uncharted, they started to make more human enemies, because you couldn't have one where you're just going out shooting fucking jaguars and bears and shit, and then Uncharted on the other hand is out there getting you to fight fucking other expeditionaries and all this kind of shit. So they have
Just
to, I
murder
think,
everyone. Like
as they say.
Nathan Drake just
Yeah,
murders
but in this one
everybody.
you were basically just killing animals. But and some of them are pretty tough as well. I remember the bears and stuff being tough ones to kill. I think that what I did love about the gameplay, I might as well get onto that now, is that the gameplay was clunky. Like if I haven't played the remastered ones now, but if you are, I would say I think you can turn it on to the original controls
Just to
or
have a
new
look.
controls.
Yeah.
Just have a look, because I remember it being clunky, like especially the aiming. Like she'd
Mm.
auto aim, like you'd be going along, and all of a sudden she had like her iconic twin pistols,
Yeah.
and so she'd be running along, and all of a sudden they're aiming at whatever, bats or whatever the fuck. So that was like, okay, that's pretty cool. The problem is that when there's more than one enemy, there's no button to change to lock onto a different enemy, so you're kind of locked onto one. You have to do these. You're trying to do backflips and side flips and stuff to try and get the turnaround to shoot something different, and it was really awkward. And because of, as I said, everything lined up in big gigantic blocks, the kind of the dynamics of it were to get from one part to the other, everything had to be absolutely perfect. All your jumps had to be lined up to, so there was a lot of falling because things weren't lined up exactly right. Whereas more games in the future are or now in the present, are a lot more forgiving when it comes to that kind of stuff,
Yeah. There's nothing worse
Like, I
than
think,
having game mechanics that are clunky, that require precision jumping or precision traversal.
Like you got very used to them when you were playing it, but now very outdated. Like back then, it was something new as well, so you kind of got used to it. And it was like, oh, this is cool, but we've come so far now that I think if you were to go back and try on the original stuff, I'd imagine it probably hasn't aged very well.
Smash a controller off the wall, yeah.
Yeah. I did love, speaking of the twin pistols though, I did love the unlimited ammo. Like you get like in the games like Devil May Cry and stuff.
Yeah.
There's fucking nothing cooler than being like an absolute badass where you just jump around the place. I love that. Like overall, it is a great game. Like I know I've kind of ragged on the graphics and stuff like that, but for the time, it was incredible. Like the puzzles and stuff and the trap. And the puzzles were difficult, like as well. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of little secrets to find, traps to avoid. Like it wasn't an easy game. Like there's sections you could be wandering around for in ages trying to get things timed right or figure things out. Like, and you need to make sure you're tooling yourself up with all the weapons and ammo, and you can pick up shotguns and Uzis and shit. Like, because it's not an easy game. Like I imagine it's still difficult now. Even the fact that we've got multiple decades of gaming experience afterwards, like it's still quite difficult. But like. At this point, they hadn't completely sexualized the character either. Like we moved into the most recent trilogy, they'd moved away from sexualizing her. Whereas from Tomb Raider 2, 3, 4, all these other ones, I think her tits were getting bigger with each game that came out. They were just getting more and more of this sexualized symbol, whereas that hadn't happened in the first one. But it was a tough game, rewarding game, and I would be interesting to check out the remastered versions of 1, 2, and 3 just to see what's changed, because this is a game where when people are talking about what's say if you were pitching Uncharted to somebody, you might say it's a Tomb Raider kind of style game. It's that style of game, because people think of action adventure. Action adventure, and you think of Tomb Raider, and now you think of Uncharted as well, who of course have made it 10 times better. But this was a huge achievement for a small studio that made an iconic character that most people would know who Lara Croft is, even if they haven't played a video game. Launch movies, everything. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
But yeah, that's it.
It's fucking brilliant. Well done.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like I guess it's I maybe I should have checked and see have you played it as well, so we could have
Oh,
both
yeah,
jumped in on it. But I thought it's a good time to go back and have a yap about it just because
absolutely.
remasters are out now.
And I'm interested in going back to, when we say like kind of remakes and remasters, is it like just polishing up the graphics, or have people gone back to
I
the code and
I
kind of, as you said, fixed a few
from what I know,
control issues?
they've changed a lot.
Mm.
From what I know, that they've kept the original because there was one that came out like I think it was called Tomb Raider Anniversary that came out
Mm.
in like the mid 2000s where they
I think I've
basically
played
did a
that one. Yeah,
reimagining
yeah,
of the
yeah,
first
yeah.
game. Yeah, and it was a reimagining of the first game, but they changed a bunch of stuff. Whereas I
Mm.
think in this one they've kept it very faithful to the first one, as in they've kept the levels the same, but they've added stuff in, like they've put in the sky, or they've
Yeah,
made
yeah, yeah.
different visual changes, different things about the controls and stuff. I think they've made a lot of changes to make it way more accessible for what you would expect
Mm.
going into play a modern game now.
Because
That's from what I've
yeah,
heard, but I would have to. I've
that's the
only
jumping off
read tiny
point,
bits. So
or that's the struggle, I guess, for going back to old classic games where when the SNES Mini and NES Mini would come out, and you're going, oh, I'll go back and play these games, and they're fucking hard as balls. And you realize that like the game only is like 8 levels, but it took you fucking 5 months to finish because it's like
yeah,
fucking like Mario or something like that. But going back when the like clunky controls is just such as much as you can, nostalgia will get you so far. But then if it may not be game breaking kind of bugs or anything like that, but if the controls are just you can't make that fucking jump because the fucking control, the camera's swinging around a weird way, or as you're saying, it's locking onto something I don't want it to lock onto, that kind of stuff. If you preserve like 95% of the game as is, but then just kind of
yeah,
iron out a few things to make the customer experience, as they say, a little bit better, then that's the way I think you should go, rather than reimagining it or taking 4 years to fucking, like when Dead Space is one way where that was brilliant, but you don't want companies wasting time when they could be making new IP, spending 4 years making an old game, giving it a new coat of paint and changing
yeah.
too much essentially. So I'm looking forward to going
It'll
back
be
to this.
it'll be interesting to see where they go from now because this is now going to be the latest Tomb Raider
Mm.
release because we haven't had anything since Shadow of the Tomb Raider at the
Yeah.
end of that trilogy. So I don't know what the latest plan is. Well, maybe they will go back to this older looking design of Lara Croft.
But they're rebooting it again,
Or
but it's like
so
what do you
I
do
don't
now?
know what
What
the plan
angle do
is
you
there.
take?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd happily have more in that ones with Camilla Luddington, the last trilogy, the Rise, Shadow, and
Yeah,
whatever
because
you
it's
just called
like
it, the first one, just Tomb
it's
Raider.
like
They were good, solid games. Though.
and they're like, are they coming up on 10 years old or something? Like
The
2014 or
first
something?
one, I think the first one, yeah, came out in 2014. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's like 10 years ago, and I'd love to see how far they could take it, reimagine it again. Um, yeah, because just the recent trilogy
maybe have
was
her,
fantastic.
maybe have her. Yeah, it was, but again, they've changed up the character and changed up the whole
Mm.
thing, but. You weren't really raiding too many tombs. Like the tombs were kind of an afterthought
Yeah,
in the later games. Like they were
just
optional.
murdering
Like
people,
you just
just straight up
you
murdering people.
discovered you would discover
Mm.
the tomb that was like a puzzle,
Mm.
and
More
then
puzzle elements, I
you
think.
know
Yeah,
yeah. So I think I'd like if they were gonna do something new with a new game, I'd like to see way more puzzle stuff. Get back to the original stuff with that. Maybe get a blend of the
Mm.
recent games and what was cool about the originals.
yeah, and don't have a prompt. Maybe if I push that crate over here, I'm a fucking Tomb
Yeah,
Raider. Let me figure it out, please.
a la fucking Horizon. Yeah,
Fuck's sake.
yeah. Right, cool. Well, look, that was good. That was good fun to
Happy
kind of
days.
revisit that one. I suppose, yeah. Before we wrap up, then, Daz, is there anything you want to tie off with, or?
No, that's great. We're just going to hopefully do a Oscars little kind of mini review or chat about that once they are done and dusted. Maybe that'd be next week. We don't know what we're going to do movie wise next week, so we'll
No, usually
we'll see.
we're quite organized with a good fucking plan ahead of what the weeks and the months entail. But we've
Dune
kind of
kicked
fallen
us in the
off
face,
a little
yeah.
bit. So yeah, so we'll we have to get our schedule in order again. But yeah, for like everybody, just keep doing what you're doing, liking, subscribing, listening. If you're watching it on YouTube, great, and keep sharing, telling people, around the water
Absolutely.
cooler in the office, whatever, all that stuff really, really helps.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, look. From me and from Daz, thank you very much for listening as always, and we will catch you all on the next one.
See you later.
Take it easy.